Why, hello there! Nice to here. I hope this video finds you very well, and I thank you very, very much for tuning in. What are we doing today? We're doing a review of this Vosteed Raccoon 2.0. You thought it was in here, but it's over here. This is the case, but I faked you out. Didn't see it coming, did you? No. Keeping things unexpected here, or not? Probably not, but who knows? Occasionally things happen, right? So, this is a budget model, and this is a very popular, arguably flagship model for Vosteed. This is the 2.0, and there's a billion versions. I don't know why they're just calling this one the 2.0. Tons of options, tons of price ranges, tons of just everything for this thing. Is it really worth it? Is it such a great budget model? I don't know. Does it hold up? Let's find out. With the review being, or I should say, pardon me, with this being a review, there are going to be timestamps down below, and words are coming to me slow today, apparently. So if you want to jump forward, you can, but without further ado, let's just get into specs, and hopefully words will continue to flow out of my brain to my mouth at a reasonable pace. Probably not, though. You have about 3 1/8 of blade. It's a tiny bit over that, I'd say. Come on. Hook on the blade, thank you. Yeah, it's a tiny bit over that, so let's call it like 3.15 to 3.2 inches of blade, somewhere in that range. Again, for the total length, the number isn't very clean and even. It's a little under 7 5/8, which is 7.6 inches, let's call it. And again, not quite clean, coming in at about 4.35 or 4.4 inches, give or take. The numbers are not quite super clean and crisp and easy on this one, however, that is pretty irrelevant. What is very relevant is the comparisons, so you know the general size of this thing, even if you don't get some clean numbers to back it up, right? Our resident full-size comparisons, Conspirator and small Elementum, and it's pretty much kind of directly, almost perfectly in between the two. Maybe it favors the Conspirator just a tiny bit. It's a medium-sized knife. This is full, this is small, this is medium. Definitely that. It's not small, but it's also not a particularly large knife. It's compact, let's call it. Let's get this out of the way. And for a second, you can get whatever that is off of there. And do our most important comparison, or at least the one I consider most important, the grip length comparison to 2 AA batteries. So, you have about 1 3/4, maybe a little shy of that, 1 2/3, 2 AA batteries for your grip length. And then you have a big old choil here, sharpening forward finger, whatever you want to call it. Now, I will admit, this does not look like the most obvious of choke-up positions, considering the angle, and I'll be also honest, this is one of the things that kept me from checking one of these out anytime earlier. I know they have been super popular. I know that they've been around for a while. I mean, this is the technically what they're calling the 2.0, but that area just did not throw me. But at some point, I was just like, well, you know what? I can't keep ignoring it. Got to get it at least on the books, right? Weight is 3.76 ounces, which isn't an ounce an inch, but it is actually kind of impressive if you think about it. This is full steel liners here in this knife. I mean, it's not a big knife, but it's not also like super narrow. You've got full steel liners, and there's no weight reduction on this side, and just not that much on the other side. I don't know how they've kept it down to quite as low as it is, but they've definitely seemed to have cut out somehow enough. Who knows? Where is my... There you are, the bit driver. For hardware check, we have T8 body screws, and T6 pocket clip screws. We also have T8 thumb studs. For some reason, they didn't do T8 on the pocket clip, which is kind of bizarre. But fortunately, most people will never have to interact with the pocket clip because the pocket clip does not have to be taken off for the disassembly of this knife, which a lot of knives it tends to. So that's a nice thing there. You really only have to interact with two things, and they're both T8s. However, of course, if you are left-handed, you will have to, or you probably will, want to flip that clip. You can flip the clip, which is nice because the top liner lock is pretty friendly to left-handed carry, being a relatively ambidextrous lock. You'll have to interact with the T6, but you'll probably only have to do it once. So, I mean, for not being ideal, it's about as good as you can do it, right? Thicknesses. Let's get into thicknesses, shall we? 480 thousandths of an inch, I think. So under half an inch, decently thin. I mean, it's certainly not bad. On the clip, you have, at the highest point, seems to be about 670 thousandths, which is pretty common for a lot of knives. I mean, I think the Conspirator here is a little bit thicker. Yeah. It seems like 650 to 750 is pretty common for a lot of pocket knives when you're measuring thickness and everything for overall handle. Blade stock is 118 thousandths, and I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier, but that number comes up pretty frequently, or something right around that number comes up pretty frequently, and I've always wondered, like, why are they shooting for that? But then I thought, well, obviously they're shooting for millimeters, which is about 3. So it's pretty clean, pretty close to being 3 millimeters and 118 thousandths of an inch thick for the blade stock. Behind the edge, you have... No, that's a little too low. About 15 thousandths. That's pretty good. It doesn't have the tallest grind. I mean, the grind on this particular one it's kind of hard to see with the coating, but it only comes up to there. They managed to get it down reasonably thin. That's a nice, relatively slicey thinness, and the geometry never gets super thick. I mean, it gets a little thick faster because it just doesn't have that much room, but honestly, it's pretty good, and it cuts quite well. All right, let's say we're done with the specs here, so let's move on. So, the Raccoon 2.0 here is in Nitro, or not Nitro V, 14C28N. I was just looking at it, if that was in Nitro V. This is 14C28N, good stainless steel, very high toughness. I mean, probably not necessarily the most useful thing in the world when it comes to blades. Toughness is kind of a weird metric. Edge stability, like you have the edge wear resistance for sort of edge retention. And then edge stability toughness is kind of like what you actually want to look for, because unless you're beating this thing into something, you don't really have to worry about how tough the steel is. And the edge stability toughness, as we often talk about it, is more to prevent sort of rolls and other issues. It should do that pretty well. It will need to be touched up relatively frequently, comparatively, but it's a good budget steel. This one has this, I think they call it a copper dune coating, and it's not my thing, okay? Flat dark earth, copper, these coatings, the brown, yeah, I don't particularly like that on blades. In fact, that's one of the last colors I'd probably want on my blade, but I did want to check it out because I know they do this one, and something I found interesting is, if you actually compare them, the clip and the blade, well, let's get them closer, shall we? Are close, but this one actually is a little, like, more rich, like reddish, and that looks more copperish. This is actually more brown into my eye. It's relatively close, but there is definitely a difference between them. And funny enough, the button kind of is a medium between the two. So, Not completely 100% consistent. I'd prefer this color just throughout. This is a slightly nicer brown in my opinion. But, okay, it's fine. I wanted to check it out, so that is what it is. There is no play. We are having trouble seeing in there. Yeah, we're centered. Thumb stud actuation only. Vosteed logo there. So the blade is, I mean, this is I rail against logos on blades a lot, but this is how you do it. Keep it small, keep it off to the side, make the most of the presentation to be relatively unnoticeable, right? Clean blade. This is the, what is it, the clip point or the buoy shape. There are a ton of shapes for this thing. There are standard, like, drop point, spear point. There's a sheep's foot. There's, in fact, a new sheep's foot that actually looks pretty good that came out at the same time as this one that's sort of more modified and got the tip up higher. There's this. Actually, you know what? I think that might be all. Maybe there's not a ton, but there's a decent number of blade shapes. So you can kind of choose what you want there. I liked the buoy. It looks just kind of different. I don't know why this buoy looks different, and a buoy is not by any means different, but maybe it's just because they put the tall point so far forward. Normally you see it like sort of back here a little bit, or not quite as pronounced in relation to the tip. But they've managed to keep the tip pretty low on the clip point here, so it's very accessible. There's a swedge up there. The blade itself is nice. The plunge grind and sharpening choil is pretty good. That's a decent amount of life. I mean, they could have pulled it back further, but that's a ton of life, so that's not really a big problem. And while for some reason there are two stop pins, this is the open stop pin, this is the closed stop pin, it does not touch the button. The stop pin actually lands there in the closed position. You can see the mark. So you can cut in all the life you want on this thing. I mean, if you want to keep going, go right for it, and you can do so without getting a smile, which is nice. They have a kind of an interesting looking hardware for the pivot, just to mention that. It's kind of irrelevant, but I like it. It is not, however, I have adjusted this thing. The pivot is not like the deepest tooled screw ever. The body screws are really good, but the pivot could be a little bit deeper. Just saying. Obviously, top liner lock, I already mentioned that. The button is kind of exactly where you want it. It doesn't have to be over pushed like some do for top liner locks. It sits kind of like you just have to get it flush with the scale, and it will drop pretty decently. And the texturing and everything makes it pretty comfortable and intuitive, let's call it. And the D10 is actually quite good. Moving on to the handle, we have, as I already mentioned, the steel liners, but we have micarta. This is not like top quality micarta. Vosteed does sometimes use top quality micarta, but on more of their budget end, for some reason they shy away from it. Whereas, like, you'll still see it sometimes on, well, the budget end of, like, Kaisers. Maybe not quite executed to the level of slightly more expensive Kaisers, but Vosteed's is kind of a step below that when they're not using the Norplex and the high-quality stuff for the more expensive knives. But it's not bad. It's by no means poor quality micarta. It's fine. The pocket clip is probably the big winner here for me, which is kind of strange. This is a fantastic pocket clip. Continuous rise, stays relatively low. Great flex, great retention, flat screws inset. Very good, and it has the logo on there, and that's perfectly fine. All right? I mean, if they had just left the logo by itself, that would have been cool too. I will say that I think the lanyard hole has been prioritized a little bit over the pocket clip. I wouldn't mind seeing it just sort of pushed this way, just a tiny bit, because sometimes I can feel it it gets a little close to the bottom of the knife there, and you can kind of feel it there. I think just shifting it over a little bit would be nice, personally, but it is by no means uncomfortable. I mean, the pocket clip by itself is just, it's like I said, it's a good budget. It's a good pocket clip. It's a good pocket clip design. This one just works. So, absolutely, and of course, you have a filler tab if you want to reverse it and not have holes there, which I don't always necessarily even care for a filler tab, but black on black, it works. And a lot of times you get filler tabs where they're like, oh, here's a black knife and here's a giant silver square, and it's like, okay, I appreciate the filler tab in the function of keeping gunk out, but you have a weird shaped square just back here. This is black on black, so it's not that big of a deal, but if you do get bothered by the filler tab, you can remove it and just see the mic art underneath. So, no big deal. Bearings in the pivot. Probably should mention that. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but it is bearings in the pivot, and they work quite well. Pretty smooth, not like... I mean, it's hard to tell with these. Actually, it's not hard to tell. It's reasonably smooth. It's not a drop shut kind of knife, but it is. Some top liner locks do still seem to manage to keep that drop shut nature. This one has a little bit more pressure on it, but no big deal. It works and feels pretty good. It is quite smooth, actually. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is this choke-up position. The choke-up position looks very awkward. It sort of cants you into the blade. It looks like you're going to rotate or fall into the blade. That definitely kept me from like being all in or checking it out sooner. I was wrong. That is more than enough room, at least for my fingers, and I think most people's fingers. You've got a decent amount of room, and as long as you prop yourself against the spine here, you sort of have a almost not quite a trigger pull that really holds you in position much better than I thought. It's much more comfortable and much better than I thought based on how it looked. I don't feel like I'm at super risk for going in here. I mean, I'm not going to stab in this position. Well, you probably could. And if you're locked up here, you sort of lock in with your finger acting as a catch on the guard, or the second finger. So you still kind of lock in there, and you never really get too badly up into the blade. So the area, despite its maybe less than ideal look, or the concern anybody might have, it seems to be a lot safer and a lot better and a lot more thought out than it, appears. Oh, and there's jimping up here, which does absolutely nothing. The jimping is a little bit of texture. That's about all. So, is this a good knife? Yes. This is definitely a good budget knife. I can see why these are good. Do I know why they're super popular? No, it doesn't quite have like for me, it doesn't have quite like the drawl of the sheepdog or this simple, clean silhouette and just feel of like things like the Elementum. But it is a good knife, absolutely. And there are a bunch of variants. Some come down, I believe, as far as $59 in the 1.0 variants. This is $69.99, I believe. So about $70. It comes in the budget territory. It's getting a little close. But I do think it's reasonable. You can get more expensive ones with crossbar locks, liner locks, I believe. I think there are actual button locks, if not just, or maybe they're just all top liner locks. I don't know. So you have locking mechanisms. You have all kinds of blade finishes, handle materials, blade shapes. There are titanium ones. I think the top one is $175. That's titanium, and I think S35. There's even a Raccoon Tie Slim, which is like a super slimmed down version of this thing. So if this is too thick for you, you can go even thinner. Yeah, there are a bunch of options. And, I mean, Vosteed has absolutely, hold on one second, embraced this knife as sort of one of their flagships. going so far as to, like, have patches where you have raccoons. They've apparently done well for themselves with this one, which is good. I will say that while I don't think it's unreasonable, I do think that $69.99 price point is a little bit high. I mean, you're getting a good knife, and it's a fine budget knife for the price. But I do think you could probably do just as well $10 cheaper. So, I mean, the basic Foca, which I still haven't done a review on because I'm considering doing something different, a comparison. Very similar concept from Kaiser. Not necessarily this one, but the plain steel one, I'm pretty sure is cheaper than this. So, Miguron coming out with aluminum and D2 at a high heat treat. Yes, it's D2, so it's not completely, corrosion resistant, but for $40, yeah, it's got a lot of competition. It's not bad. You're not going to go wrong with it. It's popular for a reason, but I do think that you could probably just with a little bit of effort find something that technically beats it in the price point. So that is something to be taken into consideration with. I mean, like big old Miguron Valona, also 14C28N, big old knife. Very similar price points. In fact, I think is the Valona cheaper? I think the Valona was $55 for a while. So yeah, or $60. Does that make it bad? No. Do I think it's unreasonable? No. There's a lot of good here, and the Raccoon is popular for that reason, I assume. So I'm going to end things here. Say thank you very, very much for watching. Continue having a good day. Start having a good day. Just have a good day. Maybe consider liking and subscribing if you want to the channel, and there's going to be some videos popping up for other videos. If you want to check something else out on the channel, that'd be great. But most importantly, oh, there was a dog. I don't know if you heard him, but he's doing something, so he's probably getting into trouble. So I'm going to go look at that and say see you later. Thanks for watching.